but you have a gas tank, and then there's a line that runs out of that, and it has fuel in it, and it's flammable. I'm like, I would have had a fire going that they would have seen in DC. Generally, panic is what kills you in a survival situation.
I'm SouthCox, and you're listening to the Gritty Bowmen.
Hey, this is Corey Jacobson, and you're listening to the Gritty Bowmen.
We bone and raised outdoors, and you've been listening to the Gritty Bowmen.
There you go.
I'm Casey.
And I'm Jordan.
And you're watching
the Gritty Bowmen.
I kind of took this step, and it was more than a step. It was like a 10-foot fall that I fell, and I've got, my loaded pack with all my meat, camping gear, and camera gear and everything. And I went down hard, and I remember thinking I just snapped my leg.
We often go solo into the city. When we were in Southeast Alaska, Anthony was strapping on his sidearm as we're going out for dinner. And I was like, what are you doing? Why are you putting that on? And he's like, Brian, the two-legged predators are far more dangerous than anything we'll find in the woods.
Living to the age of 100, like I promised my kids, and never being attacked by a bear, and never, needing to life flight myself out. To me, that's accomplishment right there, man.
Right.
That's proof right there that you're a badass on the mountain.
All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Bowmen podcast. I'm coming at you from 8,500 feet or so in Evergreen, Colorado. And I am here today with Tim Burnett, solo hunter. He's coming at me from lower elevation.
Yeah, about 45-50, Reno, Nevada.
Reno, Nevada. So anyway, I thought it'd be cool to get Tim on the podcast. We've it's been too long, man. We need to get you on a lot more.
I was just looking at the timeline, and I think it was like August of last year, September maybe, when we last did a podcast. September 29th, I think is what it was.
Yeah, too long.
Wow. I've kind of been on my little island, I've kind of pulled back a little bit from public life and just spend time in my little cubicle here.
I mean, let's be honest. You are the solo hunter. So, you have a tendency to hide out by yourself.
I don't know that's, I think whether I was doing solo hunter or whether I was an engineer, going to a day job, it'd kind of be the same thing, really.
Yeah.
There's just certain things about the public that can kind of wear a guy out. So, I think a lot of guys out there can relate to that, where you just kind of want to scoot back into your retreat and, maybe just skip the public life for a little while.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm a little burned out myself, from, all the trade shows and stuff. They weren't as fun this year as they were last year. And
I'm not going to say, we have a little bit of a delay here. Either that or my saving my weekly allotment of caffeine for this very podcast is backfiring.
No, there is a slight delay since we're doing this over Skype. But what were you going to say?
What was I going to say? I don't consider it like burnout, really. I'm just kind of pacing myself for the year, not necessarily burnout on all the trade shows and everything, just pacing, picking and choosing where I want to go, when I want to go.
No, that's exactly what Aron does too. Even with the hunts, because you go on a lot of hunts. We got a bunch planned, and it can be a lot of hunts. Time in the woods, hungry, tired.
Hungry, tired, just not sleeping good. That stuff can get on you, but that's the stuff that we love too. It's hard to say burned out or I'm tired, I don't want to go, because those season dates, once they're closed, they're closed. You're not going to get a second chance.
No, I agree. So on that note, Aron and I have been doing a recent run of Gear Talk podcast because we're getting a lot of requests for that. Guys are drawing tags for the season. They're getting ready for their 2017 fall hunts. Some guys are hunting as early as July, August. So people, it's on their mind getting new gear, and I've done a few with Aron, but I'm curious to get your opinion on things, since you run things a little different, and you're a different dude, but you've been doing in this game a long time. So that said, you just talked about getting sleep at night. Like, what do you do? Like, what is your, let's say you're backpacking in, you're bivouacking in. What is your, sleeping pad, sleeping bag kind of setup look like? And how do you get sleep? Because I just went backpacking with my daughter, Caitlin, a few days ago. And Tim, it's been a while since I've slept on the ground, a few months. And it wasn't very comfortable.
It's rugged. I don't know. I'm still, for those of you listening out there, if you want to comment or anything, I'm still looking for the perfect system. I probably use 3 or 4 different camp pads throughout the year just because I'm like, wow, this one's not working, so I'll use another one. And I don't know. That's the biggest thing when you're broad chested and broad shoulders and just I don't know. It's just so hard to sleep on the ground.
Yeah.
I need to learn how to be more of a coffin sleeper and sleep on my back.
I do sleep on my back. I sleep on my back quite well, actually.
Yeah. Do you find when you sleep on your back, like I was noticing it last night in my bed, which I love my bed, I woke up in the middle of the night and my heels were just on fire from sleeping flat on my back, and something about my heels just being dug into the mattress. They're just aching.
Sometimes I'll get a heel bruise like that and it sounds like it makes us sound old, dude. I mean, really, but but I will sleep only if my wife likes to sleep with like 5 blankets on top, like thick. So those blankets are hanging off the bed and driving they're heavy and driving my feet my heel into the mattress. But I mean, it's kind of, I don't know. I never got that way before I turned like 40, but
I think I just noticed it more. But as far as camping goes, I just I'm using a Big Agnes sleeping bag right now, and I think I've got a Thermarest NeoAir camp pad, and I've got a Big Agnes camp pad, and I've got 6 inches of memory foam that I sleep on the back of my truck when I'm truck camping. So I don't know. Still looking for that perfect solution.
Yeah, that's a tough one, I think.
If you could get one of those Lisa mattresses or Casper mattresses to weigh about a pound and a half,
yeah,
that'd be the way to go.
Yeah. Aron actually got a new pad for Amy, his girlfriend Amy, that is 1 pound 6 ounces, I think. It's pretty heavy, but I'm gonna go borrow it because it's wide and tall. Amy's pretty tall, but it's kind of got I don't know which one it was, but basically Aron was saying it's not just an air pad. It's got like some memory foam built into it, and it's super comfortable. And in the past, when I really wanted to like have the cat's meow in the backcountry, I brought the Thermarest cot, the Featherlight cot, the backpacking cot, and then I would use the NeoAir, Thermarest NeoAir, kind of like a third of the way inflated on that thing, almost hardly inflated at all. And you sleep on your side on that thing, and your hip doesn't dig into the ground. It's like heavenly. You sleep like a rock. And but it's like 2 pounds just for the cot plus the weight of the pad. I mean, it's a 3 pound system, 2.5 pound system, which gets up there.
Sometimes that's worth it though. I mean, if you look at it, it's like in the first 2 days, I'm going to lose 2 or 3 pounds off my gut. I mean, it's,
yeah,
you try to shave weight all the time. And I used to get caught up in that where, I mean, you're cutting off your toothpaste handle and everything to just shave weight. But at the end of the day, half a pound or a pound to be comfortable at night, small price to pay.
No, I know. And I've truly, I've done it about 50-50 where I brought the cot and haven't brought the cot. When I hunted in Hell's Canyon area, and the ground was hard as a rock, and it was also very steep, you can set that cot up even on a slight, what I'm getting at is if the ground is uneven or if the ground is really hard but divoted like rocks and stuff, the cot was heavenly because you can just set that thing up and it sort of just smooths everything out. You throw the pad on there and you really sleep well. And sleep is everything as you're getting older, especially in the backcountry. If you can get a good 6 or 7 hours of sleep, you're ready to go the next day. If you slept 2 or 3 hours and got some crappy sleep, that just starts beating you down day after day. So
Yeah.
I haven't decided what I'm going to pack yet. When the ground is soft though, like super, super moist or soft, sometimes and it's pretty easy to get a nice setup with and it's flat. You can get a nice setup with just a pad right on the ground. Then you don't really need the cot so much. But if you're a side sleeper, that cot is everything.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I found that a Unisom is the lightest form of getting good sleep. Really.
Okay. So
it works great. I can sleep like a rock, but the problem is you're groggy for half the next day.
Well, that's the thing. I've done some research on sleep. So, are you ready for this? I'm gonna share some new knowledge for you. You may not like it, but basically, Unisom and things like Ambien, So when you go to sleep at night, and I've talked about this a few times before in the podcast, but and Aron takes like Benadryl, or he'll take some Excedrin PM or something like that, some kind of nighttime thing at times, and it will knock you out. Unfortunately, the problem is it also kind of inhibits brain function as well. So it's not unlike getting punched in the jaw and you get knocked out. The brain doesn't actually do any restorative activity during the nighttime, which is what you need. The brain goes and prioritizes and says, okay, I'm going to fix the sore muscles, short-term memory. It goes through the cycle of things, and the brain has to be functioning in order for it to restore tissue and health. And the problem is when you take something like Unisom and other things, it actually knocks you out, but the brain is also incapacitated. So restorative process isn't the same. So it's very common with Ambien. It really is, it's almost like it fakes you out. It makes you feel like you slept, but you really didn't sleep because your brain didn't do the restorative stuff that it needed to do. So I lean on instead.
Yeah, you suck.
Yeah. So, and there's a couple great podcasts by some Navy SEALs, a Navy SEAL dude. I forget his name. He's on Barbell Shrugged and a few other podcasts. He did a TED Talk on all this and dropped some serious knowledge in this space where he dealt with a lot of Navy SEALs that were getting and Special Forces guys that were having poor just no sleep basically over the years, affecting their health and their testosterone levels. And what they ended up doing is prescribing them with Ambien, which then again just masked the problem but didn't really fix it. So, but melatonin is a natural occurring hormone in your body, and if you take a little bit of that at night, that's what actually makes you fall asleep anyway. You got to be careful with that, but it's a healthier option, and it doesn't actually inhibit brain function and stuff like that when you go to sleep. So, and it doesn't leave you as groggy like Unisom. It'll knock you out, dude. It will. But the next day,
yeah, I have to take just like a little teeny tiny pinch.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking an eighth of a pill if I take it.
Because the next day for like 4 or 5 hours, you feel like dog crap. And when you take the whole dose, and I hate that feeling. So I prefer being tired to normal tired than Unisom tired. So anyway, that's my 2 cents, Tim. Try the melatonin.
Yeah, I know you said that there was. It's funny, we got this delay, and I know you said that there was something to take besides the Unisom, but I don't have a clue what it was because I didn't hear it. All I'm hearing is like, burp, 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 burp. So it could be like, drink a rock star before you go to bed. I wouldn't know.
Melatonin.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep.
No, I think the right answer there is to search for the right sleeping system, camp pad, sleeping bag combination, and everything. And just wear yourself out the entire day. Just hike your brains out so that you can't do anything but sleep when you're on the mountain.
Totally. Well, what about a pillow? Are you a pillow guy?
So I don't pack a pillow. No. What I'll do is I'll take my the bag that my sleeping bag is in, and I'll shove my puffy into that. Any extra clothes or anything I'll put into that and have a nice pillow. And then a lot of times I'll take my pack and put it up next to me because I am kind of I like to sleep on my back, but sometimes I can't fall asleep on my back. I have to fall asleep on my side and then eventually find my way to my back. So I'll pull my pack up next to me and kind of use it as my mock wife and, lean up against it and try to fall asleep that way. But
Okay. Yeah, Aron and I are the same. We usually use our sleeping bag, stuff sack, or any stuff sack, and we throw our puffy in there, and that's our pillow.
Yeah, and one thing I've done is I've got who the heck makes that thing? Is it Thermarest? I can't remember. It's a liner, so it's like a really super lightweight sheet type of a liner, and I've got one that's insulated that gives you some additional warmth to your lighter weight sleeping bag, and then I've got one that's just basically just a sheet, and I'll use that, and that helps a ton to not have your thighs rubbing against each other, at night, and just skin on skin is the worst. But I'm not going to pack in my pajamas,
Right. No, I do the same thing when I'm really looking for a good night's rest. I'll pack in the I think it's a Thermarest sleeping bag liner. Same deal you're describing.
Yeah, I think that's who makes them. There's the Reactor or whatever it is.
Mine's like a big blue sock, in it. And what's cool about it, and I went for the heavier one. It's like kind of some kind of cotton material, so it's comfy and it breathes. They have some more synthetic type, but I'm like, so it feels like I'm climbing into like a flannel sleeping bag, which when you're sweaty and your legs are all sweaty and you're all sticky and stuff, I have a hard time falling asleep day after day. Yeah. And it's worse in Oregon than it is like in the drier climate, like Colorado. But I find that I really like the liner, the cot, the pad, my puffy in a stuff sack. And dude, I'm sleeping pretty good, but it's weight, right? And so sometimes Aron and I are just packing the NeoAir in the sleeping bag, and I'm leaving the cot, and I'm leaving the liner at home. But I got to admit, with those two things, it can be night and day difference in my comfort.
I would bet that the majority of the time, if I'm just looking at me personally, not even stereotyping everybody else out there, the majority of the hunts that I do, that extra pound or 2 pounds is not going to make the difference. It's just not. Now, when you're going backcountry and you're packing in 7 or 8 miles after deer or whatever else, and weight matters, that's where you're going to have to probably sacrifice and take in the lighter camp pad. But maybe you'll get lucky and find a sandy spot in the middle of some decomposed granite up in the boulders or something. Just when you get up there, I find myself, I'm just like scrounging. Look, I'm like, oh man, there's a pile of pine needles. Maybe I can scrape those together, and find a soft spot to sleep. But ultimately ground is hard no matter what you do.
I agree. What I find is that a lightweight, the lightweight. In the past, I didn't carry the camera gear I carry today. And that's where it's killing me is I've sort of, I'm carrying 5X, it's really around 15 pounds of camera gear and audio and batteries and blah, blah, blah. And Aron and I are discussing how we can minimize that, go with lighter weight stuff for some of these backpack hunts. But
I think you have to compromise. What you have to do is, I'll do the same thing. I'll take a look at basically it's lenses, really, because your camera's not going to change. So it's like, I'll sacrifice. I'll say, okay, I'm going to have to just get it done with this one or 2 lenses instead of 3 or 4 lenses, and just make that sacrifice creatively and make up for it at the end,
That is so hard to do though. Especially when you buy like a very expensive lens and then you just leave it at home.
I have one lens that weighs about 4.5 pounds, and it's like, I wish I could have that thing with me everywhere you go, but you couple that with my other lenses that are 2 pounds and whatever else. And man, it gets rough. It gets rough, but that's what we do. And I like that part of it, but I've found that the more simple I keep it, the happier I am. And I guess it kind of simplifies the project a little bit, instead of pulling 4 or 5 lenses throughout the day, I'm having to make do with 2. And I think it makes me work harder, that much harder for the creative shot. Maybe I'll get maybe I'll hike in and get a little bit closer to that deer instead of filming it at 1,000 yards. Maybe I'll hike in and film it at a couple hundred, just because I don't have my long lens.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But
I hear you.
Because you're hunting too, we're not just out there shooting a film. I mean, that's shooting the film is part of it, but you got to do what's going to make you the most effective hunter too. And if that means shaving some camera gear, then that's what you got to do.
Well, and that's unique to that's a unique conversation that I'm having, here with you. Probably be similar to a conversation with Remy, but most of these guys, like you look at Ranella, he's not having this conversation because his camera guys, all they're in charge of is bringing cameras and shooting the film. Like they're not bringing he can bring a better cot or whatever because he's got a crew. When you're me and I'm the cameraman and the hunter and I've got a rifle and a bow, a rifle or a bow on a hunt and plus all my other gear. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, if you don't have all the camera gear, you can either be lighter, faster, stronger, as a hunter, or you can pack in more gear.
Yeah, it's tough either way.
But I think there's a ton of people though. I mean, everybody's packing a camera, whether it's a small little handy cam or a GoPro or whatever else. Everybody's packing something, it seems like these days. But
yeah, we
kind of take it to the extreme. So I guess maybe we're alienating all those people that don't give a crap about the cameras, Brian.
Perhaps. So
dang it, sorry guys.
When I think about that, I often think, look, the guys that don't have to, that aren't dealing with the camera. Aron and I have talked about this. There's no reason why they shouldn't be down around 30, 35 pound packs for a hunt. I mean, a lot of our weight is in our cameras and camera gear. So
yeah, and then there's so many variables to every hunt, every situation, whether you're packing in your water because there's no water source or whether you're just packing in one bottle and a filtration system. I mean, there's all types of variables that determine what your overall weight is going to be, but you have to look at each scenario
true
individually for itself and figure out what's going to make you the most effective. What do I need for this particular hunt? Can I get away with one pair of socks or whatever it might be based on the determined amount of time that you're going to spend in there. And I think the reality of it is the number of overnight or extended hunts is paled in comparison to the number of day hunts, or people hunting from a base camp or from the truck. And that's one thing I have to keep reminding myself is like, yeah, I romanticize about the 5-day or 7-day or 10-day backcountry hunt, and I look forward to all of those, but that's kind of a rarity, Yeah. I think there's a smaller percentage of people doing those hunts, even though those are the coolest, most hunts that we want to talk about,
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think there's it's a niche group of hunters that are out there trying to do this, off their back in a backpack. For sure.
And that same group of hunters, if they're going to go on day hunts too, when they don't have the time to go back for 7 or 8 days, they're going to be weekend warriors just like everybody else, and do the day hunts.
True.
So it's where a guy's just got to do whatever he can to get into the field and take advantage of it. If you've only got 7 vacation days for that hunting season, you got to decide if you want to lump them all together into one big trip. And if you do, man, take advantage of that trip. Do your homework, pack in, do everything exactly right. Don't come out of it 2.5 days into it because you're tired, and you brought in a crappy camp pad.
Right. So tell me this, Tim, what about, Aron and I have been discussing it. We just covered it in a recent podcast, but I'm curious to get your perspective on this. Aron, you are hunting solo often, all alone by yourself. And there's some risk there because, you're out there alone in the backcountry. If something goes wrong, you're on your own. There is no buddy system here. There's nobody that's going to bail you out or help you or carry you out or run and get help or anything like that. And it's just an inherent issue with hunting solo. So, and you've been doing it a long time. So what are your safety precautions, fail safe things? What are the things that you do to ensure that basically you're not dying out there and leaving your wife and kids fatherless and husbandless?
Yeah. No, I'm a different person than I was 20 years ago. I'm a different hunter than I was 20 years ago or 10 years ago. I hold myself back all the time. There are certain things that I just won't do. There's certain lines I just will not cross because I know that I'm out there by myself, and I know that the likelihood of getting help very fast is pretty slim. So if I get into a scenario, so let's take an example. Years ago, I had an elk tag here in Nevada. The week before I took my son out, anyway, I'm going down the road on my 4-wheeler, and I'm thinking I want to get to this spot. Well, I got to an area in the road where it was a pretty good angle, and I wasn't 100% confident in myself being able to make it across. And all I had to do is make it across a 10 or 15 foot gap, and then it's back free sailing, and I can drive forever. But I got to that, and I just kind of was like, man, you know what? I just don't want to risk this. And so I turned around and drove all the way around. It was about a 10 or 11 mile loop to go around to hit the exact same spot where I was right there to continue on. And I was like, man, that sucked. So on the way back to camp, I'm like, screw it. I'm just going to try this. What happened? I rolled my 4-wheeler over the top of me, you know? Yeah. And it's like, that was stupid. I made the right decision the first time. I didn't get hurt. Yeah, it took some extra time out of my day. But on the way back, that's where I made a mistake. Fortunately, nothing got broken. I was just fine, you know, fired up and head back down the trail. But there's a lot of scenarios, whether you're hunting or whether you're not, you know, that can happen. But I've just found that the longer I do this, the less important things are, or I guess the more important things are, you know, it's like, it's not as important that I walk across that ridge or that shale slide to get to the other side. It's like, nah, it's too risky. I'm just not going to do it. I'll go around, you know? Yeah. And when I'm with my brother or years ago, it was too easy to just say, screw it. If I fall, it'd probably hurt, you know, but I can make it. I'm tough. Well, guess what? You're not always going to make it, you know? And I realize that accidents happen and things out of your control can happen. You can step in a gopher hole and twist a knee or any of those kind of things. But I just find that I'm inherently a lot more cautious when I'm out there by myself than I am when I'm with somebody else, I guess. Huh.
Yeah, I you know, that I'm the same way, you know, in Southeast Alaska. The first time I was out where I experienced something like what you're describing, I was actually, it's like 2007, and I was hunting bears in Southeast Alaska, and I stalked this bear, and, you know, I'd spotted him from probably 100 yards away, and I closed the distance, and I kept a large Southeast Alaska tree between me and him, got to the tree, leaned around the tree, and the bear was like 5 feet away from me. And so at that point, I was like, okay, well, that's really close, but I wasn't actually afraid of the bear. And I was like, I can't miss from here. I'm going to kill that sucker. What a cool story. What a cool experience. This is awesome. But then I couldn't help but think of my wife, who gave me this, who before I left said, don't do anything stupid. If you get mauled by a bear, maimed or killed by a bear, I will never forgive you. And I remember sitting there thinking how cool it would be, but how foolish it could be, right? I shoot a bear at 5 feet, it might fight or flight, it might decide to fight instead of run in this case, because I'm so close to it. Who knows? And I decided, okay, the wise thing to do, and I was alone, would be to back up and then back up 20, 15 yards or so and move edge around the tree and take the shot. So, so I did that, but I remember distinctly thinking, as I'm backing up, this is so stupid. I wouldn't do this if I wasn't married and had a wife. I just wouldn't. And I think your priorities do shift. You feel a sense of responsibility as a father, and getting yourself hurt or killed is sort of, it just is a selfish thing to do.
Well, and not everybody has those filters either. You know, I mean, you see it all the time. People taking selfies over a bear bait or whatever else, you know, and it's like, man, at any time something could go wrong. And fortunately it doesn't the majority of the time. But we got to remember, we're out there, we're susceptible to the variables of nature, you know, whether it's wild animals or whether it's the elements or just freaks of nature where you roll an ankle or anything. We're all susceptible to it. And it's good and bad at the same time, that the majority of the time bad things don't happen. You know, I mean, the majority of the time you're going to be okay. You're going to come out of it and with a close call, you're going to say, whew, man, I'm glad that didn't go the other way. That could have been bad. It's like the other day, Friday, I was up on a hike. I was doing some voice. I was on my phone just recording a voice memo, and all of a sudden I just stepped over and I heard this rattle, and I was literally straddling this rattlesnake. So I jumped to the side, and fortunately it was still cool out, and the snake was just like very docile. Well, that could have ended up in a really bad way, you know? And then Monday I'm out on the same trail hiking along, and I step and I hear one little tick, and I keep walking and I think, you know, that could have been a snake. And I turn around and literally right next to my foot track was this bigger snake coiled up right there, rattlesnake. And I'm like, man, that could have been really bad. All that thing had to do was just open its mouth, you know, and take a hold of my ankle. And what am I? I'm 6.5 miles from my house or from the truck. It's like, yeah, that would have been a really bad deal, but I'm okay. It turned out good, you know? So
yeah, you're right though.
It's weird. It's like you almost need something bad to happen to you for you to wake up and say, holy crap, something bad can happen to me.
You know, SouthCox, he got mauled by a black bear in California years ago, and he's talked about it on a few different podcasts. In fact, on Full Draw Full Time, he talked about it on one of those podcasts, and it's a pretty cool podcast. And he tells the experience. Before he got mauled by that bear, he had no problem sneaking up on bears. No problem getting close. In fact, this bear he had been watching for a while, and he snuck up really close to it, got super close, and pulled out his camera and then took a picture of it. Like, I don't think it was a selfie, but still, it was a picture to, you know, say, look, I was like 10 feet from this bear. He snapped the photo and it went click, and that bear jerked its head around and just was on him in seconds and just mauled the crap out of him. And this is like a 80-pound sow or something. Maybe it was 60 pounds. It was not a big bear. He was absolutely helpless. Shook him like a rag doll, beat the crap out of him, blood everywhere. And he was telling me that, I mean, it just, the power in that critter was just unreal. And you experience that, and then you're less likely, I think, to, you know, do something like that again. And you know what I mean?
I don't want to experience anything like that. You know, I mean, I've had my share of close calls, and that's what sucks. Is like I've never once had that instance where it was like things went south. You know, where you're in a situation and you can either get lucky or you can get hurt really, really bad. I've never been hurt really, really bad or had something go south. I've always, thankfully, had things work out okay. And I don't ever want to be mauled by a bear. You know, I just don't want those types of things to happen, especially the more and more time that I'm out there, and the more and more responsibility I have with my young kids and my young family. It's like, man, I'm going to do whatever it takes to not put myself in that situation.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of, you know, you look at with the way social media is driven and everything, and people wanting to boost their social media profiles. You can go across the board and tick off, you know, example after example of people wanting to do extreme things to to come across or to be seen as doing extreme things, you know, and I guess that's okay. But it scares the crap out of me, you know. I don't want to get hurt, and I don't really, I know that I'm never going to be the biggest badass on the mountain. I'm never going to kill the biggest critters. I'm never going to be the best at anything. So I'm just going to do me and be happy with that, you know, and you just cross your fingers and pray whenever you see somebody doing something that you might consider as stupid or whatever. It's like, man, I just hope that bear doesn't turn on that guy, or I hope something doesn't go south, because they're sure putting themselves out there for something bad to happen, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's extremely, it's unwarranted risk in general, and a lot of guys do it. So that brings up like the Aron Ralston story, where he goes off, doesn't tell anybody where he goes, falls in the slot canyon, the rock lands on his arm, and then he chops his arm off to get back and almost dies. You know, there were a lot of unnecessary risks taken in that situation because of a desire for, you know, independence, you know, because you wanted the risk, because it added more to the experience, right?
That's why I sit here as a hypocrite, you know, and that's kind of the double-edged sword. I guess that's the ironic thing here is I can talk about all these things of how to protect yourself and always be safe and never get into a stupid situation, and yet week in and week out I'm putting myself in a stupid situation, which I think to clarify is, it's like, yeah, it might be coming across as hypocritical, but it's not an unusual thing to go out and hunt alone. I mean, people have been doing it for years. I don't necessarily think that it's that irresponsible to go out and hunt alone, especially if you're taking on the precautions, you know, everything that you can to make sure that you're not going to end up in a bad situation. But still, at the end of the day, it's not the wisest, smartest way to go about things. You know, I mean, I think it's cost me some sponsorships at times. It's cost me maybe some additional fan base that might be there. The just thinks that you're stupid and out looking against you. But the reality of it is that's my lifestyle, whether I was doing it with the camera or not, whether I was hunting or not. I'm going to be out fishing. I'm going to be out hiking. I'm going to be out biking. I'm going to be out doing all these things solo, because that's who I am. That's what I do. You know, I don't run in packs. Guys like me and like you, a lot of times, like Remy, like others, we don't run in packs, you know. There's just something satisfactory about doing on your own, the self-sufficiency, just providing for things on your own, you know, and that's just who we are. And so that's, I guess, you know, raise my hand. Yeah, I'm hypocritical with these certain things, but I'm also very, very analytical in my planning process and protective process to make sure that all my bases are covered, that I'm not going to do something.
So I'm really, really curious. I'm really, really curious about that process. So can you walk us through it? Because there's a lot of guys that hunt solo, like you said, and even Snyder and I, you know, as we hunt together, we've been invited on a lot of hunts recently, and to go on hunts with different people. And, you know, we really just want to go with the two of us most of the time. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that. And then Aron really likes to go off by himself, you know, a day or two here and there on every hunt. And I don't think that it's necessarily, you know, a stupid thing to do or foolish thing to do. I think it's, like you said, a natural thing to do. And when we were in Southeast Alaska, Anthony was strapping on his sidearm. You know, he's a you know, a Oregon State Trooper, and you know, he's been in law enforcement a long time, and he's strapping his sidearm on while we were in the hotel in Ketchikan, and we were getting ready to go out on the town, and I expected him to put the sidearm on when we went hunting, but you know, here he is putting it on in the middle of the city as we're going out for dinner, and I was like, "What are you doing? Why are you putting that on?" And he's like, "Brian, the two-legged predators are far more dangerous than anything we'll find in the woods." And I think that we often go solo into the city, right? We do stuff all the time that's probably getting in our car is more dangerous than hunting solo. You know what I mean? So
just driving to work, you have more of a chance of getting hurt, you know?
Right. So yes, it's dangerous. Yes and no. But I think, like you said, when you are alone, you are far more aware of the danger that you're in than maybe if you're with 2 or 3 guys where you take for granted that someone's got your back. You know, there's a vigilance that's present. And I think it can be done in a very smart way. And Aron Ralston, in his book, he kind of detailed the things that, had he done like 3 or 4 things differently, the entire outcome of that event would have been completely different. And so I'm curious. So walk us through your process.
Okay, so the very first thing that I'll do is, like, say here in Nevada, here's my map, you know, just a map of the game units. So what I'll do is, when I know I'm planning out a hunt, whether it's Nevada, Alaska, Montana, Idaho, whatever, is I'll take a printed map, a layout of the map, and I'll circle locations on that map of where I plan to be, and I'll label them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever it might be. Usually there's only 2 or 3 or 4. And that map is for my wife, you know, so that she has this visual. She can hang it on the fridge or the wall or wherever it might be, and she can see on the map in relationship to Reno, Nevada, where I'm at. And there's always a plan A, plan B, plan C. Then there's a digital copy, so I'll use OnXmap, and I'll go in on online or on my phone, and I will chart those exact same locations on my map. And that digital file goes to my brother Boyd. So he always has a file of exactly where I'm going to be at. And a lot of times I'll send it to a third person. And then I'll always keep a map here at my house. So those are just the things that I do to let people know where I'm going to be. And then I always pack a satellite phone with me everywhere I go. I mean, some of the questions in reading through your thread, you know, guys are always asking, or a lot of people were asking the question about the DeLorme InReach and other things. And for me, the solution has just been the satellite phone, because I can call in and I can ask my kids how their day was. I can get that, you know, give them that verbal connection to dad. And to me, it's just a warmer, it's more comfortable for me to have that phone than it is to just have something that I can punch in a text, you know, because it's just not the same.
Yep.
And I think that goes a long ways for me to help keep me out there longer, and not come back early, because it's like, wow, that was great. I just talked to Kelly and the kids. Everything's fine at home. I'm good. You know, I'm comfortable. I can go to bed. I can wake up tomorrow and I can go back to work, you know, do my thing and hopefully kill a big buck, and then call them again and share the excitement, and then do it again the next day, you know? So
right.
I think with a text or with like a InReach or something that's just a messaging system, you don't have that emotional connection that can either keep you out there longer or that can by your loved ones at home's needs. You know, I mean, your kids and wife need to hear your voice too, I think.
Yeah. It's interesting because Aaron Snyder, we just recorded a show day before yesterday, and Aaron was like, he's in a different boat than me where, you know, his kids aren't living with him. Like Kaylee lives a few states away, and she visits and stuff, and they text each other a lot. He's not married, you know. Aaron has a girlfriend, and so there's like where I've been with Suzanne for 21 years, and I've got 3 daughters, and they're all at a very impressionable age where I really want to stay connected. And Aaron was like, yeah, I mean, for the most part, I don't necessarily want to hear your voice while I'm out there. I kind of want to just hunt, you know, and this way I can text you telling me I'm okay. You can text me back. It's 2-way communication. It's cheap. And in that regard, I can see a lot of value in a DeLorme InReach. It's simple.
Definitely.
It's so quick. It is 2-way communication, where a spot device is 1-way. And it gets the job done.
Well, and it's a GPS tied into one too, mapping system, everything, right?
Yes, right. And you know, and it'll save your life. But you're right about the connection. Like, I don't like being gone for 2 weeks straight and not hearing my kid's voice or talking to my wife. And I do I normally I break down before Aron in terms of wanting to get home to see family, or feeling the need to be home, where Aron doesn't. But if we make it into town where I can make a phone call, and I talk to my wife and kids, and they're like, "Hey, we're great. We just went out and partied and had this, good time at such and such and blah blah blah. We'll see you in 5 days, Dad." It's so much easier for me to be like, "Oh, everything's good, and now I can hunt longer." It just
I can be more selfish. I can stay out here for a few more
totally.
days.
It's true.
There's a method to it. It's a selfish thing what we're doing, but as long as we know that they're good back home, it's okay. It's good.
Yeah, and so you're right about that connection and that relationship. That is something that though I think Aron and I are in different places in our lives where that's not something Aron needs, but maybe I do. So.
Yeah, so it's for the individual. They've got to figure out what's best for them and what's going to work for them. But ultimately, you've got to have some form of communication if you've got some sort of stewardship back home. Even as much as letting your mom know that you're okay. If you're single and in college and nobody gives a crap about you, well, your mom probably does.
Yeah,
have some form of communication. And for me, it's part of the safety factor too. I know at a moment's notice, if I go down, I know where that phone is in my pack, and I can get a call out to LifeLite or whatever I need if that should happen.
Yeah. Do you carry a spot device or anything else like that with like an SOS button or a rescue, or do you pretty much just run the sat phone?
So most of the time, if I'm in the States, I'll usually just use my Spot sat phone, and it is the Spot. And then if I go international or Alaska or something like that, I also have an Iridium, and it has the SOS button or feature programmed into it as well. So,
okay.
I kind of have both options depending on where I'm going to be at.
Okay. And then you mentioned OnXmap, GPS. I've been hunting with Aron for a little over a year, and Aron really doesn't use a GPS. He has like a 400 Trex or a 401 or that watch GPS that really just gives you like a waypoint or location. What do you use?
I don't use a GPS unit. I never have. I guess I take that back. I used it once on my Alaska moose hunt, especially with like the Onyx maps. You can trace, track whether you've got cell coverage or not. And so for me personally, it's like I've never been in a situation where I felt like a GPS was going to save my butt. Yeah, I could probably get lost at some point, but eventually the sun's going to come up and I'm going to have a long walk and I'm going to find my way out,
Yeah.
It's you're not always, it's very rare that you're going to be in an area that you can get yourself in a really bad bind, not knowing where you're at. I guess the differences would be is if you got if you had some shock or weren't thinking clearly, some dehydration, any of those kind of things, then at least you'd have that visual to help you get out. But I think for me, luckily, I've just never felt like I've needed one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But you'll use OnX maps like on your smartphone or something like that?
Yes, yeah, all the time. I've used that for years because, for one, I'm hunting the majority public land, and so it's been great for that to be able to know exactly where you're at, and not only just planning your hunts, but while you're out there on the hunt, you can come across a private piece of property out in the middle of nowhere, and next thing you know, you're in trouble. So I've always used it for those purposes. But as they've progressed, over the years, they've now got that tracking feature that you can enable your location services on your smartphone, and whether you've got cell coverage or not, the satellites are still tracking where you're at. So you can still see in relationship to a topographical map where you are, where you've been, and where you need to be.
Right.
And you're hauling your phones for social media and all those kinds of things anyway. For taking pictures, I'm using my cell phone as a remote for my video camera. I'm transferring photos. I'm doing editing and stuff on my phone while I'm out there. So it's like, man, I'm not going to haul a phone and a GPS if I can use the phone for everything, you know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I think as technology progresses and, you know, Onyx is getting ready to launch some additional things, you know, coming in July that I think is just going to kind of blow people away. And to me, it's really become the ultimate tool for not only a solo guy, but also a guy that you know, relies heavily on public land hunting, or even if you're private land hunting, you got to know that you're still on the private, you know, or on that guy's property. So
Yeah.
it's just a great tool all the way around. And
Well, and the
you know,
screen,
I've used it for years. And
the screen is so big on your smartphones. Anthony loves the OnXmap on his phone. He hates using the chip inside of a GPS because the phone, you can pinch and pull and change the size. You can move around on the map so easily, and then you can download different layers so you can actually get you know, a true photograph of the area that you're at, not just a topo image. And like you said, it shows private property, public lands, BLM, sometimes wilderness and BLM and stuff have different rules behind them. And some of them you can't, in different states, state land, you can hunt some of it. Some of it you can't camp on overnight. You kind of need to know where you're at.
Right. And so what I'll do is I'll load, like now I know what hunts I'm going to go on this fall. I know what states I'm going to be in. So I went ahead and loaded all 5. I've gone in and done all my pre-scouting. So I drew a desert sheep U tag here in Nevada. So it's like I pulled up the hunt units and I found all the guzzlers, I found all the springs, I found all the charted trails. Like I literally spent 2 hours with my phone, just basically my hunt, you know, charting everything out. And you can save all those waypoints and everything there. And then if you get down there and you don't have service, if you cache those maps, what a lot of people didn't realize is the caching feature. You know, people thought it was just like taking a screenshot. Oh, I can just take a screenshot of it. Why should I cache it? Well, if you cache that map and then pull it up and enable your tracking, your location services, it'll still track where you're at in relationship to that map, which is huge. Right. Versus just taking a screenshot of that. So it's like you now know exactly where you're at, you know.
Yeah, you can basically download the maps to your phone so they work offline. But your GPS on your phone works with satellite, not with cell towers. And so whereas you need, in the past you kind of need a cell service in order to view your map, now you can just, like you said, cache it to your phone and then it works no matter where you're at. But you have to remember to do that before you go on your hunt and lose service.
Yeah. And where, you know, in the fall where I'm piggybacking hunt after hunt after hunt, you know, I might be in the desert of Northwest Nevada, you know, the first week of August, and I tag out, well, guess what? My butt's headed somewhere else. So I'll be doing all my scouting at night on my phone, you know, looking at the maps, all that kind of thing. And it's just kind of cool to be able to have that type of technology at your fingertips, you know, and just remembering things. Like I was able to pull up. So this antelope tag that I drew this year, I had the exact same tag 5 years ago. So I was able to pull my cached maps and look at it, and I was able to actually see some waypoints that I had put in on the computer on my desktop of where I had seen bucks before, where the water holes were and everything else. And it was like, man, I don't even really have to do a whole lot of scouting because I already know I know kind of where these bucks have been patterned, you know. So I'll go and I'll pick my data off of that and start scouting my hunt based off of the information that I had 5 years ago, you know.
Right. Huh. Yeah, I've got to get a little more familiar with the maps on my phone. I see Anthony use them, and I like them. They weren't as user friendly as I would have liked, at least for getting them downloaded to your and set up on your phone. Perhaps you just need to read the instructions, and I just didn't do that. But
so that's the hard thing with it too. You know, is I work with Onyx quite extensively, and it's like a lot of these services that people didn't know about were there. It's just they were hard to find. You know, their organization wasn't very good, and so now they're working on some beta programs and that kind of thing. and a bunch of new things that they're going to be doing that are going to make it a lot more user friendly. A lot of these features were already there. It's going to be so much easier, and I think it's pretty damn easy to use now. I mean, to me, the app on the phone is really the way to go. I mean, if you're trying to update your chip all the time and all that kind of thing, that can get kind of hectic. But with your app, I mean, it's going to tell you when you need an update, and bam, there you go.
Right. So shifting gears a little bit, you were talking about, going into shock when you're out there, or spending the night and then you'll hike out in the morning. What are some of the things that you're carrying in your pack, in the case of an emergency or case of being lost or being so far in that you're not getting out, or even if you go into shock a little bit, like what are you carrying in your pack, and what are you going to do about it, and what do you tell yourself?
I think the key, a lot of times more so than what you have with you, is actually having the ability and the education to recognize when you are in shock. I mean, that's really when you see somebody get themselves into trouble is when they haven't been able to recognize, oh, I'm in a bad situation here, I'm in shock. Unless you can peg that and know that something's wrong with you, it doesn't matter what you got in your bag, because you're still going to make stupid decisions. So educate yourself first on what shock is, what it feels like, or fear, or any of those kinds of things. You got to kind of know what can be thrown at you. And then I always, you always got a first aid kit. I have a kit from Adventure Medical Kits called the Survival Medic. Excuse me. And what it has your basic fire building stuff. You've got an emergency blanket. I'll even throw in some extra Band-Aids or an extra suture kit or whatever, depending on where I'm going to go. But so I know that I've always got that as kind of a backup. And then the majority of the time, I've always got my backpack. And so I'll always, no matter if it's the middle of summer or not, I have my puffy in there, so that if the temperatures drop, or if I go into shock and I need to warm up my core body temp, that puffy's going on, man. And, going to get myself warm as fast as I can. I always carry a raincoat. And I think, one of the things with the raincoat is it's not just to keep the rain out. If you are just in a frigid situation where you're cold, throw that raincoat on and just walk 100 yards. You're going to be warmed up pretty quick. You just have to be careful not to get to a point of sweating, but that raincoat's going to hold your body temperature in there, or your body heat in there, to help you get that core body temperature back up where it needs to be. But you just have to understand the process of it. If you were to do that and get yourself sweaty, then you're in a worse situation. So that's where I say you have to have yourself mentally prepared for these potential scenarios just as much as you are, physically or with the gear that you have. Am I the most knowledgeable or the most prepared? No, definitely not. I'm probably still going to do some stupid things, and there's still a lot of learning that I need to do, and things that I like to, educate myself on. But ultimately, if you don't know how to do those things, it doesn't matter. I guess it doesn't matter what you have. I just repeated myself 100 times there. Sorry.
No, dude. I think it was you nailed it. It's interesting. Got me thinking. How does a guy recognize shock? And when he's in shock, and then fear.
You see examples of it all the time. It could be something as simple as just, hey man, stop the bleeding before you go into shock. It could be any scenario that you're in. You got to make the smart move first.
So I'm like you though too. I always carry my puffy, and generally I almost always carry the rain jacket with me in my pack 24/7, no matter what I'm doing, as well as a way to start a fire. I'm a big fan of Trioxane tablets.
What's Trioxane? What is that? I don't know.
So I guess it's an old military type of fire starter. I'm really not sure what's in it. Like Aron said, it'll probably fry your brain if you sniff it. So, but you can buy it on Amazon or on Army surplus places. But
Gotcha.
honestly, you get a spark on that thing, comes in a little tablet. That thing will burn. It'll burn so hot, and it'll light without hardly any effort at all. I can set it on the ground. Just looks like a Alka-Seltzer pill, but it's green, and then I can just spark it with what do you call it? A ferro rod, and that thing will light right up, and it'll burn for a good few minutes before it burns away. Plenty long enough to put wet wood on there and get it burning. And so, it's kind of, and Aron and I just used Uberfire the other day, which is a product he tried out, and he's tried a lot of different fire starters. And Trioxane, it's spelled Trioxane, I think. Yeah, dude. I mean, I recommend everybody have some. Throw it in your bino harness or your backpack, whatever you use, because that stuff is a lifesaver. In the past, he's used like cotton balls and Vaseline, soaked in Vaseline, in like 35 millimeter camera containers, and there's all these different options like that. But these Trioxane tablets are like, they could be sopping wet. They're just, I mean, they're pretty remarkable. So. And then I always have multiple forms of fire starters. So I'll bring matches, but I'll bring a lighter, and I'll bring a ferro rod. So I have like 3 forms of ways to start a fire. But like you, the puffy's really important to me, because you get out there pretty far and it starts going south and things are getting cold, and you just need to throw that jacket on and get your body temperature up. And I think that can be, especially when you're going into shock, that seems to be one of those issues that kind of gets people is they go into shock, their body temperature drops. What do you tell yourself, Tim, mentally? Like, what kind of mental talk do you have with yourself when you start to panic?
I'm trying to think of the last time that I started to panic.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that I've really been there. I guess the closest was probably 4 or 5 years ago, to where I didn't really panic, but I just kind of convinced myself that I didn't want to be there. It was like, this situation sucks. I don't want to be in it anymore. So I'm just going to suffer through it one more night, and then I'm getting out of here. But I don't know, fortunately, that I've ever really been in panic mode. I think, what do I think about? What do I tell myself? My mind is always racing. Like, I think when that's part of being an entrepreneur or somebody that works for themselves, or what I consider myself to be a free thinker or a self-thinker, like, your mind is always going and you're always thinking of something. Like, there's never nothing on your mind. There's always something. And so whether I'm hiking up that mountain and I'm thinking about, an editing technique, or thinking about product development, or whatever it might be, like, my mind is always active and working. It's very rarely on the task at hand. Like, it seems to be always on something else, when it's, and so I think that helps to focus by not focusing. I don't know.
Tell me this, maybe not a panic. Let's get rid of the word panic. What about a high pressure situation? In where the stakes are high, and and there's some risks that are coming down on you. Then what do you tell yourself?
Man, I don't know. As much as I'd like to say I've been in a high risk or a high stakes situation, or I've been in, the thing where it was life or death or any of that, I really haven't. It's not that I haven't put myself out there enough to have those things happen, but man, thankfully it just hasn't. I guess I'm trying to think of the closest example that I have is I was packing out a tar out of New Zealand a long time ago. Gosh, it's been 4 or 5 years ago, I guess. And I'm packing out, and I was coming down through where it goes from the kind of the tussock and the tundra, whatever, the grasses, into the trees. And I kind of took this step, and it was more than a step. It was like a 10-foot fall. that I fell, and I've got, my loaded pack with all my meat, camping gear and camera gear and everything. And I went down hard, and I remember thinking I just snapped my leg. My knee's blown out. I'm done. I said, I'm the only thing I can do. And I just remember just laying there just in pain and face down into the dirt and just trying to catch my breath and thinking, all right, what am I going to do here? And I probably laid there for 10 minutes before I even unsnapped my pack and tried to roll over. But I think in that situation, the key and what saved me from losing my mind was just not doing anything. And part of it was because I couldn't. You got 100 and something pounds on your back and your face first in the dirt. But I just mentally told myself, don't move. If you are hurt by not moving, you're not going to hurt yourself any further. Make sure and kind of do a mental evaluation of, how are my arms? How's my back? How's my legs? Oh, my knee is throbbing like crazy. What happened? And then just took the time to kind of work things out. And it was just a hyperextended knee, and I was able to kind of work my way down the mountain. I mean, it took me the rest of the day. It took a full day to get off the mountain. But, that's really the closest thing that I've come to where it's like, oh, crap, I could have blown out my knee, or I could have broke my leg, and then what? Then you're screwed.
Right.
But man, I just haven't been there, and I don't ever want to be. I don't want to be on a podcast with Brian Call telling about this hair-raising event where I had to cut off my lower leg to save my life. I just don't want that to happen.
It reminds me of Tim Burnett, it reminds me of Ranilla when he's like, I want to get mauled by a bear, and I want the scar, I want him to claw me from shoulder to hip. And then I want the scars, but I want to survive it. And I don't want anything really serious to happen.
I used to think that would be cool, but I think with age, there comes a time where it's like, yeah, that's really not going to make me a badass. I think what'll make me go and live into the age of 100, like I promised my kids, and never being attacked by a bear and never, needing to life flight myself out. To me, that's accomplishment right there, man.
Right.
That's proof right there that you're a badass on the mountain.
No, I think you're right. When you're younger, you kind of fantasize about harrowing adventures, but as you get older, I think you realize it's like war. People romanticize it, and then they go to it. And not that I've been in combat, but you hear people talk about it and saying, yes, not much romantic about it. The real deal. It's blood and guts and horror. The courage is amazing, but I just ask because a lot of times Aron has that quote. Panic is what kills you in a survival situation. Generally, panic is what kills you. If you keep your wits about you, and you can think clearly in spite of a traumatic situation, most of the time you can think your way out of it and survive, or come out in a better shape than you otherwise could have. And so I know there's a lot of guys that are afraid to spend a night in the wilderness, especially a night away from their tent, away from their gear, and it's not going to kill you. Like you said, your sun will come up the next day and you can hike out. But telling yourself that and mentally calming yourself down, that's something that is harder to do without putting yourself in some kind of experience where you've done it. You know what I mean? I know people who have never spent a single night alone in the wilderness by themselves with minimal gear. And the first time they do it, they're freaking out.
I think that's with anything. You got to condition yourselves to it, and heck, I feel like I'm softer now than I was 20 years ago. But, it's just the more you do something, the easier something gets. And I don't know. Yeah. It's just a matter of doing it, convincing yourself that, hey, you know what? I can do this. I'm going to go out, and if it's a goal of yours to spend the night alone, or do a solo hunt, well, crap, do it, man. I mean, start small and figure out a way to make it happen. But if it's just not in your genetics, it ain't in your genetics, you know.
Yeah. I was on a hike in Utah the other day with the Black Ovis guys, and we were hiking, and I was talking to a guy, cool dude, and he's like, he has that genuine fear of bears. Like, he can't sleep very well in the wilderness because the bear thing gets him down. You know, it's like he hears stuff in the woods moving along, and he's always thinking that, you know, there could be something coming along. And especially when you're a dude that lives in grizzly country and you're hunting in grizzly country, it's a legitimate fear. I mean, it's not like it can't happen, but yeah.
Well, that's what sucks is it does happen, you know, and that's the reality of it is like I can sit here and live in my own little fantasy world and say that, you know, fortunately, by the graces of God, I've never been in a life-threatening situation, but the reality of it is it can happen at any minute, at any time, you know, and we've seen just like that guy in Montana that got mauled by the bear and had to walk out 3 miles. Well, fortunately, he was the man that he is, and he was able to do that, you know, because had that happened to maybe me or maybe somebody else or whatever, maybe they wouldn't have had it about them to handle the situation and get themselves out of there. Maybe they would have ended up in a worse way, you know? And so it's just the reality of that kind of stuff can happen is out there, and you have to have that in the back of your mind every time. But at the same time, don't ever let fear stop you from accomplishing something that you really want to accomplish and experiencing something that's so amazing as waking up in the morning and sitting out looking over a high mountain lake below you and watching the critters, you know, and stuff. I mean, there's some amazing things out there if you'll get over yourself and let yourself experience those things.
Well, I think you've shared some really good information here for basically, you know, just safety, what things you can do to help make sure that when you're out there, you're going to come home as safely as you can and also stay out as long as you can. I'm curious about the first aid kit that you talked about. I've seen it on the Solo Hunter TV, on the Solo Hunter episodes, a few of those. Can you tell me again what it is?
Yeah, so it's the Survival Medic, and what I'll do maybe is I'll shoot some video clips of it and send with this audio file with you. Okay. You can maybe throw it in some B-roll over the YouTube part of it, but it's just called Survival Medic from Adventure Medical Kits, and they make hundreds of different kits, but this one is kind of a good blend of medical kit and survival mixed into one. It's ultralight. I think it weighs 11 ounces, 13 ounces. Don't quote me on that, but it's super, super light, small and compact, watertight bag. The only thing I add to it is a little bit of ibuprofen and a couple of large Band-Aids because, you know, I know my feet, and no matter what boots I wear, what I do, I have flawed feet. And so I make sure that I've got plenty of those big Band-Aids to cover those flaws, you know, and those spots. So, I'll try to remember to shoot a few close-ups of that, but anybody can Google it or Bing it, depending on which site you're on. Just the Survival Medic. And we sell them on our website as well.
Cool. Well, Tim, thanks for coming on the podcast. We need to do this again.
You're welcome.
This happens every time. I've got like a ton of questions, and we got through like 3 of them. But it's good stuff. It's really good stuff. Thank you for coming on.
I have had ideas that I haven't even covered with you yet. Next time, hopefully we'll be able to do something that'll shock the Gritty Nation. You know, it's like, hey, yeah, that's awesome. We can be a part of that. And maybe what we'll do is we'll plan out a Gritty solo or a solo Gritty hunt together and figure out some way to get some fans out there with this. But
that would be sweet.
It'd be enough work for me to babysit you on the mountain, let alone somebody else that to come out there.
That's right. Well, next time, one of the topics I wanted to cover was your arrows set up for your for elk. You know, we talked about we got a lot of questions around elk and around an arrow for elk, what weight and setup. And Aron has shared his, but I'm very curious. Just what's your opinion? You know, haven't done this for a while as well. Yeah. So All right, Tim.
Yeah, the key is be a better shot than I am, but we'll go over that next time.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on the podcast. Stay gritty, my friend.
Thanks.
When we were in Southeast Alaska, Anthony was strapping on his sidearm. You know, he's a Oregon State trooper, and you know he's been in law enforcement a long time, and he's strapping his sidearm on while we were in the hotel in Ketchikan, and we were getting ready to go out on the town, and I expected him to put the sidearm on when we went hunting, but you know here he is putting it on in the middle of the city as we're going out for dinner, and I was like, "What are you doing? Why are you putting that on?" And he's like, "Brian, the two-legged predators are far more dangerous than anything we'll find in the woods." And
Right.
I think that we often go solo into the city.
The future of public lands. All of us own them, all of us use them. Political activists are demanding us to hand over the public lands where the state legislators could transfer and control these lands. U.S. citizens own 640 million acres of public lands, which creates 6.1 million jobs and generates $646 billion per year.
States have been selling off land to pay bills for over 100 years, thus closing access to the public. 39% of original 64 million acres have been sold. The cost of land management would break most state budgets. For instance, who will pay the hundreds of millions of dollars to fight major wildfires each year? It doesn't matter how many promises are made. The financial reality is it will force states to have to sell off our public land.
President Theodore Roosevelt said, "We must preserve our lands for future generations, not merely to the people now alive, but to the unborn people. Our duty to the whole bids us restrain an unprincipled present-day minority from wasting the heritage of these unborn generations."